morning. It's Lee-AnneScott here from the Profitable Podcast. And today I have the lovely Arin Darcan joining us today. He is from Call Center Mastery, and both Arin and myself use Go High Level to build out our businesses and really offer the most value. So I'm very happy to have you here, Arin. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's awesome.
Awesome. So Arin, why don't we start with telling us a little bit about who you are and how you've come to run your business today?
Yeah, for sure. So I started in the whole agency space probably about 6 years ago now. And I originally had like a lead gen, typical agency kind of thing. It grew pretty well. We had probably about 30, 40 clients, maybe even more than that in our best months, which was really good. The problem we found was that we got to a point where we were just churning clients as fast as we were bringing them in, and we could never get to that next stage of growth, right? And so I kind of had a deep dive into the agency, had a look around at what was going wrong, and we just saw that clients were just not following up with leads. They weren't getting the results they should be, mainly because we couldn't convert them leads into the appointments. And so I built out a call center for the actual agency. And long story short, it went really, really well. And I had a lot of my agency friends were like, hey, can I like borrow your call center in a way? Because they didn't want to build it out themselves and that kind of thing. So I founded a company called Team Follow Up. We did white label call centers for agencies. And then after a short period of that, about 2-3 years, I realized that most of my clients wanted it in-house and they just didn't know how to build it in-house. And so that's how we got to the point with Call Center Mastery, where we got an entire Go High Level snapshot. We got all the templates, we got all the everything you need, and we show agency owners now how to build out call centers in-house for our agency, basically.
Amazing. So for our listeners, those who don't know High Level just yet, I'm just going to start with a little bit of an explanation. Go High Level is one of those platforms that every agency owner has dreamed about for years and years and dreamed of if only they could build it themselves. I think I've had a few goes myself. And what it does is it takes everything from MailChimp, Wix, Active Campaign, ConvertKit to Kajabi, and it puts it into this most amazing platform that allows us as agency owners to really manipulate it to what the clients need. And I think for me, that's where the magic happens, is that, when you go into Active Campaign or Kajabi, you've got to rebuild every time. And that allows room for mistakes, and it means that you can't be repeatable and systemize what you do.
Without.
Whereas with Go High Level, what we're able to do is really hone and optimize and tweak the processes and systems. So I suppose with you, Arin, with lead gen, you learn what's working. You learn how, you can start to monitor how quickly you need to respond to get a lead to convert. For me, I use it in podcasting. So we do guest outreach using the system. And so we're able to really tweak what's the copy that actually makes it work for our clients. So I love High Level. Tell me a bit about your experience with High Level.
Yeah, High Level for me it's like you said, it's so flexible as well, like with the automations and the workflows, and just it's kind of hard to explain in the short time we have together now, like why I think it's such a powerful tool. But it's able to do, like you said, all them softwares in one. But it's not just about doing them softwares like individually. It's the ease of being able to connect them softwares, right? So let's say you were using Kajabi and MailChimp or whatever else. Normally you've got to use like Zapier and you've got to like connect it up, and you get that kind of a bit messy. But where all of it's now being covered by Go High Level obviously works with Go High Level. So you can connect them, like essentially them what do you want to call it, like the clone of them softwares. You can replicate, you can make them work together so easily, all through the automation. So yeah, for me, it's the automations that are probably the most powerful thing for me, because that's essentially the core of, like, even when it comes to our power dialer, even when it comes to our speed to lead, like all of that is being triggered by the automations that then carry through to the next stage,
Yeah, absolutely. So for me also, automations, the workflows are my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it means that you can absolutely stitch things together and achieve that repeatable, predictable process. And I think that that's core to building a thriving business.
And one of the things I'd say to that as well is, like, once you've got the automations built out, obviously the actual snapshot feature is incredible, right? Because once you've got a process that works for a certain client, you can literally copy that as a save file, and then any new client you get in the future, you can just push that straight into them, and it's got all the copy in there. It's got everything exactly the same, right? So it's just so much more easy to scale like that as well.
Absolutely. One of the other things that I find so incredibly frustrating when you're working with other softwares is that you're constantly asking for credentials, login credentials, and then two-factor authentication. Then someone changed the password and forgot to tell us.
Or even just sometimes the software just decides to like, oh, we don't like this credential anymore. It's like what? Like it's been working for like a year and a half. Why is it like? Why is it? Yeah, it's a pain.
Exactly. So at least with high level, we have access to everybody's sub accounts. Now, obviously not in the creepy way, where we can go stalking. But what it means is that we can fix things as and when they need to happen. So from a client experience point of view, I find that it's so much more seamless and enjoyable for them, because they're not like, oh my God, what credential do you need now?
Yeah, exactly that. And trying to get clients to like create a MailChimp account, trying to get them to create another, and like they're like, in the end, they get frustrated because they think, hold on a second, I'm paying you X amount of money per month, and now I have to pay another $500 for all these different softwares. You didn't tell me about, and it causes that problem straight away from the client in the offset, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. I love that. That's so true. So Arin, both of us are going to be speaking at the Ultimate SaaS Summit at the end of the month, at the end of May in Birmingham. So tell me a bit about your speaking slot and what you are going to be talking about.
Yeah. It's literally just going to be pure, like, I'm honestly not planning to do too much about like general like this like I'm trying to just I'm trying to like conceal the last 3 years of call center knowledge that I have and just put it into like this form of gold which I can just give to people. So it's like it's going to be mostly just literally things in Go High Level, like tactics that you can deploy like there and then. And just every lesson that I found, like every shortcut that I've found over the last 3 years of trial and error, and I'm just gonna put it in. I've got like, you know, for about 20-30 slides, and it's just every single slide is just like, do this exact thing and you'll get this. Do this exact thing, and also there's a little bit of theory behind it. There's a little bit explaining why things are there, but I want to avoid just giving like this kind of fluff. I really want to give the hard concept. So for me, it's really just like the practical thing you can do right now to literally double your booking rate and double your show rate, like as soon as you implement it.
Amazing. And tell me, like, if we think about the clients that you've had, what do you think is the biggest barrier to getting people to show up consistently, and you know, how do you improve those show up rates?
Yeah, I wish there was one thing that I could just say to people, oh, this is it. But it's never one thing. It's like probably about like 30 small things. But I would say that the biggest thing that kind of encompasses all of that is just think about it from the lead's point of view, right? So most of the time, these agencies are running Facebook ads. The lead has no idea who this chiropractor, who this med spa, who this roofer is, whatever it is, right? Whether they don't recognize the brand or anything. There's no brand awareness. They submit their information online, and then they are maybe both themselves, you know, or they're getting some like maybe a Filipino or someone from Latin America that's phoning them. So already they're thinking, hold on a second, this company is supposed to be local to me, but there's someone who's got a bit of an accent speaks to me, phoning me up, a little bit unsure, and then the texts are like not put together properly. There's like super basic, like, hey, remember you've got an appointment tomorrow. It's like there's no trust building. There's nothing. It's like an online lead, no trust. They're not going to show. Like you're asking way too much. And so throughout that whole process, we need to be doing things like even including like images in the reminders, like putting like a Google Maps thing, being like, hey, like this is where we're located, like putting some emojis in there. Super excited to see you soon. Like just trying to build that connection with them and show them that you're a real company. And you're not just like some scam on Facebook, because everyone's just scared of scams at the moment. So just, again, it's not like one specific thing I'd say, but just in general, think of it from the client's point of view, from the lead's point of view, and just try to understand, okay, if I saw an ad on Facebook, would I feel like this is a sketchy thing or is this like a real thing? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I think that's probably where we cross over really well in terms of podcasting, in that there's so much, what we've seen is there's so much AI generated content. It's very bland. Everyone wants to be quite vanilla. And so it's like, how do I know I can trust you as a person? And that's where podcasting has the real ability to set you apart from AI driven content, because it's you, it's your thoughts, it's your ideas. I mean, we all know the age old statistics where only 7% of what you say is actually your words. The rest of it is your expressions, your tonality, your body language, all of that. And I think that's why podcasting helps to build that trust and that authority, which probably ties in very nicely to that trust and authority that you're talking about, that is building that relationship with leads. So at least when they go and look up, who is this person I'm meeting with tomorrow, they at least know, okay, they're a real person. They're not just
Or
some
even linking, like in the reminders, linking things like a podcast. Like, hey, oh, by the way, I know we've got our call tomorrow. You got our appointment tomorrow. I made a new podcast last week. I thought it might be interesting for you to see. And they can at least, like, even if they don't watch it, they click on it and they're like, hold on. I hear the person speaking. I see what they look like. I can see they're in like a professional environment. Like, this isn't like some scams. It's a real thing. Okay, like little things like that can help, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts on kind of using outsourced appointment setters, and especially foreign outsourced? I know that there was in the UK, especially, there was a real stage where people hated speaking to anyone from India, just because they don't actually converse with you. What are your thoughts on outsourcing call center staff?
There's a few things. The first is that what I'll say is I'm not a racist, but I'm an accentist, right? And what I mean by that is, like, I don't care where the person's from, but it's their accent, right? You have someone from the UK who's white, British, but they've got an Indian accent. It's just, there are certain, it's just the world we live in. People just, like you said, they assume it's a scam or some other issues, whatever else. And so the first thing is the place you're getting your talent from. If you're getting them from, like, for example, like India, Pakistan, something like that, you are just naturally going to have a harder time with converting people, because people just, it's a prejudice. People just, they assume it's scams, whatever. So I always find places like, even like South Africa, it's a great place. Places in Africa like Ethiopia can sound really good. Philippines, places in Latin America, they're all usually great. My thoughts on outsource, so like developing world countries like the USA or something, right? Really, it depends on what you're selling. So, for example, with Gym Launch, they are selling I don't know how much their program is right now, but let's say it's like a $40,000 a year package. For them, it makes sense for them to actually have USA callers, because although they might be paying $15, $20 an hour, which is triple to quadruple the amount you can pay someone from a developing country, it's worth it, because that extra sale covers it by huge amounts. It's such a large sale price. However, if you're selling a $100 Botox special, paying that $20 an hour, you just don't really get the benefit of it, right? Like, it might improve your rate by 5%. It might improve your conversion rate by 5% and your show rate by 5%, but that's not going to equate to 5 to 4 times the amount you got to pay your setter. So it just depends on what you're selling, is what I'd say. But most of my clients are using ISAs from developing countries, and there's absolutely no issues anywhere.
And do you find that there's a difference in conversion rate if you think about the age of the person? Obviously, as younger people have got a different tonality to their voice as compared to older people. What's your experience on that?
That's another great thing as well. Like, another great point. Sorry, I mean, it's like, it depends on what niche you're in as well. Like, if you're dealing with people that are over the age of 60 in some southern states, right? Like, they're just naturally more opposed to foreign callers, right? And so, I'll say it depends. That definitely is the demographic of the people you're targeting, does make a difference on that as well, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a controversial question. So it's you mentioned about, you're not a racist, you're accentist, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that it is right or wrong that we naturally gravitate towards people with the same accent as us?
I don't think if it's right or wrong, it's just the way we're built, right? It's just from an evolutionary standpoint, it's like, I'm naturally going to be I'm going to feel more comfortable with someone who sounds like me, looks like me, because I can trust them, because is it right or wrong? It doesn't really, I guess it doesn't, like, we can get into a whole other topic here, right? Like, what's right, what is wrong? Like, it's just the world. It's just, there's no, I don't know. Yeah, it's just the world.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a case for the fact that birds and feathers flock together, and it's
like. So one thing, sorry to cut you off. What I would say is, do I think it's unfair? And I don't think you were touching upon this, but I'll touch on it quickly. Do I think it's unfair that people with an Indian accent can't become ISAs in certain places because of the fact of that prejudice. Yeah, I definitely think it's unfair. There are, you know, plenty of people, there are millions of people in India that are very good, hardworking people that aren't scammers, right? But people just assume, again, that's an evolutionary trait. It's like, if a guy that sounds like this or looks like this has done this to me before, or has done this to someone I know, or I've heard about them in the news, right? Then I'm naturally gonna avoid that person, and that's just like your brain protecting you, which is what got us here, right? That makes perfect sense. But do I think it's unfair? It is unfair. But again, it's the world. It's like, it's just part of it.
So how do you overcome that with the call center?
How do I overcome? What do you mean?
That unconscious bias.
Well, how we overcome it is we don't hire people with certain accents. We just can't. We look for people like in specific locations that, again, if there's someone from India but they've got an accent like mine, I'll hire them every day of the week, right? There's someone from the UK but they've got an accent of a guy that lives in India, then again, I'm not going to hire him just because, you know, it's just the accent. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We'll step away from that for a moment.
It's all good. It's all good. I've done this so many times with people, like this whole, like, because it's a touchy subject and it is like I said, it is controversial, but I'm happy just to, like, I'm just being real. Like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not. It's not about the race. It's not about whether. It's not about the skin color. It's nothing to do with that. It's just how they sound. That's all it is. So I've had this kind of like sparring for a while with lots of people, so it's all good.
I'm sure you have. So for me, from a podcasting point of view and social media point of view, what I find is that the reason why video, short or long form video, works so well is that people are, which goes back to what I said earlier, is people are watching you. They're watching your body language, your expressions, your facial expressions, the way you express yourself, the way I use my hands too much. They are looking at all of that and building this parasocial relationship with you, so that when we come to putting out marketing materials, they already feel connected. And those are the things that will influence conversion rates and success in marketing. So that's why I asked you the question, because I thought that it must translate into voice even more than it does on video.
100%, yeah, because they literally only have what you're saying and your tone of voice or how you sound. Like the body language is such a key part, and you don't have the body language, it's even harder.
Yeah. Absolutely. So tell me a bit, like, when we talk about I have another controversial question for you.
Go for
not
it.
as difficult, I promise.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So there is a school of thought. Old style sales has always been about building rapport first and mirroring and all of that. So how you get a sales conversation started. And you do that in DMs as well. But there is a new school of thought that you're actually wasting your time and that people don't want to deal with that BS anymore. How do you find starting a conversation? Because I imagine you're doing a lot of cold calling. Is rapport dead, or is it still a very necessary step in the process of getting somebody to engage in conversation with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So just to quickly clarify, so we don't actually do any cold calling. All of our calls are from leads that are generated warmly through like Facebook ads or whatever else, and we're phoning them leads that are already generated. So they are colder, but they're not. I wouldn't say it's cold calling. But your question still is definitely valid. It really depends on if the person actually feels like your rapport is genuine, then great, like, do it. But like the same way, like literally before we started this interview, right? Like we were having a chat and like we were genuinely building rapport. Like it wasn't about, you're not trying to sell me anything, I'm not trying to sell you. Like we just having a chat, like just to get to know each other a little bit, which is perfect, right? And the problem is when rapport is being so obviously used. For example, if me and you were, let's say you were a lead of mine, and you put in some information about maybe a solar you wanted, right? Some solar panels. And I was to phone you up and I was like, hey, Lee-Anne, yeah, how's your day going? You'd be like, oh, I don't care. You don't care how my day's going. I don't care how your day's going. Just get to the point, right? Because you know it's a tactic just to try and improve it. So it defeats the whole purpose. Honestly, with the calls that we're doing, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just jump straight into, hey, is that Lee-Anne? Hey, Lee-Anne, I'm calling from blah, blah, blah. I saw you said, some information about XYZ. And then just go, I wouldn't even try building the rapport because, again, you've only got that like 10 seconds. Because it's not a cold call, but it's still a coldish call. You've only
Yeah.
got like 10 seconds before they're just going to hang up on you. So
Mm.
you've got to be quick and tell them. You've got to remind them of where you're calling from and why you're calling, and like connect that with the fact that, hey, I'm not just cold calling you. We've got to
Yeah.
differentiate ourselves from the cold callers and say to them, hey, look, you submit your information on Facebook. Like, try and ping some bells to get to remind them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool, very good. So I like that because I've noticed there's a real change in. Beforehand you used to just put up a lead magnet in marketing, and then they'd fill in the form and hopefully read the lead magnet and come back to you. Whereas I have noticed that people are now actually calling and saying, hey, I noticed you downloaded or you filled in the form, and starting that conversation. Are you seeing better results with that in calling?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you like, there's a study that was done with HubSpot and MIT, and they basically looked at, by phoning leads within a certain amount of time, how it impacts pickup rates. And essentially, like, if you have someone download a lead magnet, you want to be phoning them within 5 minutes. Like,
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah, literally, if you can phone them within 5 minutes, then you've got your highest chance of converting. And it's not even just like a few percentage points. It's like the study showed, I can't remember exactly what it was now, I don't want to misquote it, but it was around something like, phoning within 5 minutes, you get 10 times the conversions compared to phoning like 30 minutes later or an hour later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also,
and we
and we see the data as well. Like, so what we do at Team Follow Up, which is the sister company to Call Center Mastery, with the actual done for you calling, we see that probably like 90% of our bookings are all from that first 5-minute phone call. And then what we do is we phone consistently twice a day, every day for 7 days in a row. And you'll see that maybe like 90% are in the first day, and it goes down to like 8%, then like 1%, then 1%, and then after that, the day 4 or day 5, you don't even really see any pickups anymore. Like, it just completely dies. So just getting that lead as soon as you can, so important.
Amazing. So we actually see the opposite in email, in that the further down that sequence you are, you might pick up 20% of your sales in that first and second email, and then the rest, the 67% plus, goes in the last say 3, 4, sometimes even 6 or 7 emails. So it's complete opposite flip to what you're talking about.
And it makes sense, because with email, they're actually absorbing some kind of information. And so it's just like, they're on the edge, they read an email, they're like, oh, not yet. And then they come and they read the number, and they're like, and then like, you're like convincing them, right? You're building up this trust.
Yeah.
With the phone calls, you're like, when you phone someone, if it like, it was different. If we were getting them on the phone every single time, let's say over 7 days, we phoned them every day and they answered every day, we would get more conversion by the end of it, right? But what I'm saying is that, like, people won't answer the phone. And so like, all they're getting is a missed call on their phone. There's no value there. There's no like brand being built. There's no trust being built. It's just a random phone call. They don't know who it is. And so it's so important to phone them as soon as possible, because then you know they're by the phone. You know they're in some kind of pain because they just submit their information or they download the lead magnet or whatever it is. And so they're at a point where they're just like, they're way more likely to answer the phone because they recognize that you are that solution, and they pick up.
Very interesting. And so, kind of as we're coming to the end of this, I have another question for you. Not controversial this time, so don't you worry.
Good. Love it.
What are your thoughts on follow-up? So obviously they say the riches are in the follow-up, and that's where the money lies. How and the other side of this question is that in the UK, I find that the British are very reluctant to follow up, whereas in America they'll follow up more often and more often.
Yeah.
So tell me, from your point of view, how much follow-up is too much, and is it true, according to you, that there really is value in consistently following up?
So it depends. Yes, the answer is there is definitely value, but how much value depends on in what context. So, for example, let's say we had a sales call, right? And you told me, you know what, Aaron, like right now, I've just got so much on my plate, I can't invest into this thing or whatever you're saying, right? I was like, yeah, no worries, man, I'll follow up with you. And a month later, you send them some value, maybe send them like an article you've read that can help them. And then like 3 months later, you're messaging them consistently, giving them value. Eventually, when they do have time, they're definitely going to come to you, and it's well worth the follow up. With a follow up, and that's obviously like a sales context. With the follow up, what we're doing is like, the lead and trying to get them to book an appointment, that kind of bit there. There's still definitely value there, right? Is there value to phoning them up 30 days time? I don't. This is just my personal opinion. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think trying to get them from that first stage to that seventh stage, twice a day, every day for 7 days, that's
Yeah.
like my window to try and convert them into an appointment.
Okay.
Beyond that, they've probably found a solution or they're not interested. And so then it comes down to the fact it's like, is it worth following up? Like, I could get my
Yeah.
team to phone up the leads, for 30 days. But then I'm going to be spending way more money on trying. Like I said to you, I've already seen the conversions drop off massively when you get to day 7.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is it worth that extra time of investing into that follow up? You might get one extra booked appointment, but it costs you $5,000 to get that. It's not worth it. So there's at one point, and that's why I'm talking about the context. So
Yeah.
comparing the sales process, like once the appointment's booked, follow up, and then the actual converting that to appointment. They're different follow up stages. There is value, but it depends on what stage.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. So as we kind of come to this end, tell me what you're most excited about for Birmingham in a few weeks' time.
That's a great question. There's just a lot of great speakers. To be honest, I know everyone says that, such as like a kind of a cop out. But I'm interested to really go into the onboarding and retention stuff. There's a whole. I think the afternoon is all about onboarding and retention.
Yeah.
And so that for me is like the sales process is I feel like there's already so much content on sales. And I feel like in the agency space, there's not enough content around retention and how to get your clients consistently paying you every month, even paying you more. So obviously I know obviously Danny, Glenn Clark, I'm excited to hear his take on it. He's done a great job organising the event. I'm just excited to meet everyone as well. Like just to have this is the first UK kind of SaaS ultimate SaaS summit, right? So it's like the first one. So I'm just excited to meet everyone and just get involved with it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think whenever I see the GHL summit and conferences in Dallas and that, and they have such a great time. They have such a strong sense of community, and I've seen how people have grown purely from being able to attend these events. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a little bit more of that here in the UK, and that this is the start of many. So I'm super, super excited to meet everyone, the speakers, the attendees, and just start building that stronger sense of community around high level. Because I think there's so much more we can do to support each other and create that network here as well.
I fully agree. Yeah, I fully agree.
Absolutely. So I do have it on good authority that there are still a few tickets left. So if you would like your ticket, do have a look down below here. We will put the link. And there are virtual tickets. So for our US friends and Canadian friends, please feel free to join us. We'd love to have you even if you are at a distance. And there are still a few mastermind tickets for the second day. We get an opportunity to really pick the brains of the speakers, which is quite different to many.
I think there might only be one ticket now as well. I think maybe I'm wrong. I saw something earlier. I was messaging my friend. I was like, "Hey, if you want a ticket, you better get there." So yeah, tickets are definitely selling out fast. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, we are so looking forward to seeing everybody at the Ultimate SaaS Summit in Birmingham, 24th and 25th of May, 2024. The first of many, I'm sure. But Arin, it has been wonderful to chat to you today. I really enjoyed your willingness to answer my controversial questions.
You're good. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been awesome. I love chatting about this stuff. This is like my passion, so it's great.
Awesome. Wonderful. So this is Lee-AnneScott and Arin Darcan from the Profitable Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you in Birmingham.